Hello and welcome to Glitch Point. And we are aware we're late. Deal with it. All right. So I had pizza problems. I ordered a pie,
As you do.
and yeah, it. I guess on the website there was some sort of you could order it for an advanced time, so in the future. And I guess I selected something like that because it came. It was supposed to get here at 5:50, and I ordered it at like 4:20.
Damn.
And yeah, and I was like, wait, I called them and they're like, no, sorry, your thing's post ordered or something. So
Weird.
there we go. I had to eat, and so that's why we started slightly late. But I'm okay with it. The news didn't change.
The news did not.
Maybe there was a breaking story in that 12 minutes. Who knows?
If only.
Yeah. All right, so I mean, there's some stuff going on.
Yeah, the big news that came out this morning, I don't know if it's been confirmed yet, because when I read the article, it was like potentially, but from the sounds of it, it's pretty legit, which is Sony's going to be shutting down the PlayStation Vita, PlayStation 3, and some other PlayStation store. Not the 4, but they're shutting down all the PlayStation stores for the 6th gen or the 7th gen consoles they had. Which, I mean, this happened with the Wii, and we've seen this happen. Like when they shut them down, this is the inevitability of having digital games now and DLC, which is if there are games that are not well, PlayStation doesn't do backwards compatibility. But if there are games that are not re-released or DLC that's not re-released and you don't have them by the time the store closes, you will never be able to play those games. If they weren't, unless they're on like another platform or something, but
Yeah, I mean, I'm not so sad about this. I get it. I understand that there's like a historical element to this, but and it is great for their financial advantage because they just re-release these games on the newer stores, and you have to buy them again because they're like remastered or whatever or whatever they do to them. It allows them to kind of vault it a little bit, but I mean. Yeah, I guess you could scramble and go buy a bunch of games, but if you haven't played them already, it's like there's so much content out there.
yeah, I think the argument is mainly just preservation of video games, which is just going to be a problem and has been for a long time. Of just, I mean, with physical copies of old games, that's why ROMs are so important. Even though Nintendo hates them with a burning passion, like they are preserving the history of games. But as newer, I mean, with third gen, I think that we're pretty fine, and all of those games probably at this point have been emulated and put into a ROM and is
yeah,
perfectly okay. And moving forward, it sucks because that's probably the only way we're going to be able to preserve video games unless Microsoft really doubles down and you never lose those things, which I mean they kind of are building and they have. It's just if a game isn't backwards compatible, it's not coming forward. But they haven't announced any sort of like closing of their servers. But I think that I think Xbox has a very I'm assuming they built their network differently than PlayStation and Nintendo for that matter. Of I think that the Xbox store is kind of all one thing, or at least the Xbox network is all one thing. So like them
yeah.
turning down the 360 servers, I don't think is gonna be. They don't need to do that. I don't think. I think that the games are just in there and they're not gonna grow and it's fine and they're gonna leave it there.
Well, I think it's also just pushing people forward. I mean, it's this
Yeah.
concept of if you allow because there's a lot of people that will just that are still playing the same game from 2000s. So
Yep.
it just and so you shut down the server, you shut down the capability, and obviously that doesn't really include. This is more for people that want to seek those games out, because if you own the game,
Yeah.
you'll still have access to it.
No, that's actually the other problem.
Well,
Is
if it's
you
downloaded, you just can't
yes.
re-download it.
If
Yeah.
you're yeah, so if your hard drive dies or something, and I think that was actually I can't believe I didn't mention that. That's the bigger issue. Is like if I have a PlayStation 3 and I have a ton of games on there, and then it dies, and I'm like, oh well, at least I have another one, or like whatever. You can't like you literally lose those forever. They're not. It's. I think just people are getting upset because they're reminded that you don't own shit unless it's
Yeah.
a physical. Like you don't own Game Pass games. You don't own anything that is digital, and you never will own anything that is digital. Well, not
Yeah.
necessarily, but if you go to GOG, then you own it. which is awesome.
Which
But
is what I was actually going to say, that GOG should. I wish they had a space on the consoles,
oh
like a
yeah,
console space, because I think that would be the catch-all situation. And I think a lot of people would, because they do a lot of work to try to resurrect these games and also make them work on the current consoles. And you could do that, like you could take old console games and make them work on the current consoles, and or whatever licensing problems that might be occur because the company's been disbanded by now,
yeah.
or all the shit that they go through to try to get those games on GOG would be we need something like that in the console space.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's where, I mean, I don't think it'll ever happen just because of how consoles are, but that's what the beauty of the homebrew community is they are going and have already created that kind of digital rights free area. And I think this is, even though Xbox is not doing this on their end, they have allowed the Xbox to become this haven of homebrew to the point where like you can play almost any game on the Xbox if you just download the homebrew app and like turn on dev mode. And they're like
Yeah,
really, and it's something where it's not necessarily a loophole, but like they can't turn that off because you're just putting it on your own thing. So that's great for the future. I wish Sony did some
but
sort
I
of
still think
homebrew.
it lives in its own area, because it's not like GOG where it's fully supported up
Yeah,
front. Right there. It's not like it's a YouTube app on your Xbox. And that's really what it should be. It shouldn't be. You shouldn't have to go into dev mode to be able to find these old games and be able to utilize these old games. Because I think there's a lot of people that are just gamers.
yeah.
They aren't technically proficient. They just like playing video games.
Yeah, that
And
I mean, those are the people who are suffering the most from this type of thing with when a store shuts down. And I mean, I've had firsthand experience with this. Of like, I had Beatles Rock Band DLC on the Wii, and then I transferred it over to the Wii U, which that was a fucking mistake. And I watched those Pikmin carry my data over and fuck it up, and now I don't have any of that DLC, and the Wii store's closed, so I've just lost it forever. But with Clone Hero, I can play those on my computer.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but it's not the same as playing the DLC on the game, but it sucks.
Again, I'm in the camp where I personally don't care that much, just because I mean I get for historical reasons, but I don't think that the games themselves are lost. I mean, yeah, you could say that there was server corruption or something goes on where they lose the data, but at this day and age, with the amount of backups and the amount of redundancies that a lot of these larger companies take, um, I just think that they're going to keep it in their vault, and the data's. It's not like the data's gone forever. It's still there. So how it gets released or how you get access to it is all that's being changed.
Yeah.
I don't know. I honestly think it becomes ownership and licensing, and being able to make money on these franchises more than once, which has happened so many times.
Yeah. And I mean, yes, there are a lot of the big hits that Sony had in the PlayStation 3 era, because really the biggest thing is going to be exclusive titles that you could only get on a PS3. And same with like DLC that was exclusive to the platform. Like I know a couple. I think one of the Batman games was exclusive to the PlayStation in terms of some of the DLC. So like that won't be able to get if you pick that game up later.
Yeah.
Um, but I would hope moving forward, and I think that's why I like the Xbox's approach. Moving forward, it seems like they know this is an issue and they don't want it to be an issue, which is why they're going so for this like one platform to rule them all approach to an online store. And I hope that Sony tries to take that approach. And I don't think Nintendo will,
Well,
because this is not their
yeah.
forte.
I mean, they may. I mean, the movement towards these Game Passes and PlayStation Nows, and I don't really think that Nintendo has one, but I guess you could
No.
call it the Nintendo Entertainment thing channel or whatever. But I think that's just older NES games, right? But they've done the Wii console, and or the where you could play NES games, and so
Yeah.
they do have the same idea of just making more content that they can re-release these games and it's just extra stuff for those platforms, for
Yeah.
these cloud-based platforms, and that's if that's where it's moving. These things are going to pop up all over, Xbox Game Pass and PlayStation Now. I'm sure they're going to have these filter through there.
Yeah.
constantly.
And speaking
Uh,
of the Xbox ecosystem, it seems that or not even seems, this morning it seemed like it, but then it was confirmed that the Xbox Live name is getting rebranded in a
saw that as
way.
well.
Yeah, to the Xbox Network, which it is and it isn't. They're turning everything into the Xbox Network except the Xbox Live Gold subscription. So, like, if I pay for Gold, I am paying for Xbox Live, but that does not mean I'm getting, like, that's not the Xbox Network. So, like, your clips and your
Yeah,
game saves, those are on the Xbox Network, and you play with people on the Xbox Network, but you have access to parties and whatever. At this point, I don't even know what comes with Gold. It doesn't. I've had it for
sounds
so
like
long. It feels like it should just not even be there anymore.
it's getting deprecated. That's what it sounds like.
I hope so.
Yeah, it feels like they're just slowly, because that's what happens. You get the little warning that says this is going to be deprecated, and then like you're just trying to move people over, and and that seems like until they just drop it all together, they move as many people as they can with these micro changes,
Yeah.
showing like, hey, this isn't the way we're planning to support in the future, or things we're planning to support in the future. But yeah, I saw it. At least it doesn't change anything. It's not like
Yeah.
much changes. It's just a reorganization of the services.
Yeah, and I
Um,
think moving forward, it makes. I think it wasn't needed, but maybe they're gonna have a better reason for it later on. Like, yeah, if they do deprecate Xbox Live, if this all is just a way to to just get people in the mindset of like, no, it's not that way anymore. Because like I don't, if nothing else changed, why change the name? But that's fine.
yeah, yeah. No, I don't know. I mean, it seems pretty insignificant at this point, but I'm glad that they're kind of even with the name suggests like the network, right? It's this whole
Yeah.
one place, the same thing they keep pushing: buy once, play everywhere. And that's just all these words that are coming out of their new marketing pushes, kind of give that same feel,
Yeah, it definitely
like,
feels more unified.
yeah, which is great, and even a lot of the releases that are happening, they're happening now on with Game Pass, both the PC version of it and the Xbox version of it are coming out at the same time for the
Yeah.
Game Pass. And it's just like a lot of really cool stuff. And there are more crossplay options now than I think ever before.
Yep.
And it's just a lot of really nice movements. I'm happy about it. It makes it really easy to game with your friends.
Yeah, it really does.
Um,
The good news that came from Sony, oh, you could say it was good news. I haven't really read about what people think about it, which is the controllers for the PSVR 2 got revealed.
yes,
And
they
they
did.
look it
Little boxing gloves.
Yeah, it's weird because when I first looked at them, I was like, okay, weird design, but I kind of like it. It's kind of cool. Like it reminded me of the Index controllers because they also have the outward padding. But because of that, I was hoping they were gonna do what Valve did, which was you don't have to hold the controller. You can just strap it on your hands, and then you just like can literally let go. Which for some games, it's so nice to be able to do that. But it doesn't seem like they're doing that. It still seems like you have to hold the controller. But then they mentioned it has finger tracking, so I'm wondering like how that even works. Like, do I have to
Well,
let fingers go for it to know, or is it just like pressing harder?
I'm sure it's the Index. It's the same. I mean, like,
Well, the index works because I don't have to hold it.
well, because it's strapped in. It has a strap. I mean, the only thing that you're not seeing is a strap, right? And then
Yeah,
once you have the strap,
it all
then
makes
you don't have to hold
sense.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and it's pretty easy to not be able to see the strap very well in the picture that I saw.
Okay.
Um, so I would imagine that you would probably have something similar to the Index where the straps around your hand and then you can move it because it looks like all that is like boxing glove looking part of it is also just to give it really good sensing as well as to track your fingers, I would imagine.
Yeah,
If
that was my yeah. So when I did, so hopefully they do have the strap and I don't have to hold it. Because if so, then that would be phenomenal. Like I'm actually getting more and more excited about the PSVR 2, whatever they call it. Probably the 2. Everything is
It
just numbers
reminds
with
me,
them.
like the first thing I thought about when I saw it was, you remember the Punch Out arcade game where you
Yeah.
would like those green like gloves that you put and they were like
Yeah.
joysticks. Yeah, that's what it reminds me of.
Bring those back. Let's go. Come
Yeah,
on, Nintendo. What are you doing? Make a new
yeah.
Punch Out game with
That's
those.
what they should make their VR controllers look like if they ever
Yeah.
go VR. Um, yeah, no, I'm excited. I really like that. That they're changing things up, and that it's good that they're getting into the VR space, and also with the new camera and everything that they're doing. I think it should be pretty good.
Yeah, I was worried that it was just gonna be a version 2, which would be like same thing with like they're gonna bring the Move controllers. Like I thought it was gonna be a reiteration just with better hardware, but it does seem like they're trying to make some steps forward. And I think the two big things are, I love my PS5 controller more than any other controller because of the haptics and the adaptive controllers or adaptive triggers, and the fact that this PlayStation VR is gonna have those two things, which would make it the only, I think it's the only VR out the box that has like resistance based input because of those
Yeah,
adaptive triggers, which is super duper cool. Because I remember playing Astro's Playroom, and you have a hand that grabs one of the little like prize ball things, and you can squeeze the trigger to squeeze it. And I'm like, oh, that would be really cool in VR. And I'm like, I guarantee you that's going to be in the demo. There's going to be an Astro's Playroom VR 2, and I'm going to play the shit out of it.
yeah, yeah. The one thing is you don't get all the peripherals because with the Move, they were more like a stick, so you could
Yeah.
like put them places and snap them into things, and it just, and with this you're not going to get as much of that. Um, but and it's also, I don't know. I already have VR. I wish there was a universal controller for all VR
Yeah.
because it's just there's too many things, and like I even felt this about when I had the PlayStation VR. It was I bought this like little container thing that had the headset and you could plug it and all charged at the same time. It was nice to kind of keep it organized, but a lot of the VR stuff just it doesn't sit well anywhere. Like the controllers,
Yeah.
they're bulky. They don't really sit well on a shelf. They
Yeah, I
look like
have a
shit.
pretty like ghetto setup above my computer now, which I have 3 screws in the wall, one for the headset, and then one holds the like Vive controllers or the index controllers just where like the stick and then the outer ring thing meet. But
Yeah.
it looks like shit. But I mean,
Well,
they're
just
on
with
the
this
wall
one, it's
now.
like it's very circular, so it's like it's not going to sit well anywhere, and when
No,
you're on a table, I guess who gives a shit, right? But it
I
does.
give a
It's
shit.
I like when things look nice or
Yeah.
fit in a place. Like a controller looks really nice when it sits on a table, and like even when you get two controllers, even if you have nothing else, and you put two controllers back to back, like on a table, so and you can kind of line them up so they look like they look nice.
Yeah.
But with the VR controllers, it just never
No,
never
they
looks
really don't.
nice.
It's really annoying. And I
That's
hope I,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm really just wanting to see the headset at this point, like because they went so different with the controllers. I'm wondering if they're gonna just keep a similar headset design, or if they're gonna try to do some sort of innovative thing. Hope they
Yeah.
go innovative with it. Do something new.
Well, I mean, speaking of the headset, we saw HTC is coming out with the next, what is it, the Vive 2 or the Vive?
Oh, is it a
So
Vive 2?
yeah, it's the next attempt of the Vive because that was HTC, not
Yeah.
Valve. I mean, they partnered with Valve, but HTC produced the product for the first Vive. So this is their next attempt at the Vive, and that's the one that has the face recognition, so it'll read your
Oh,
lips
I
to
didn't know
try.
that was like their fully second one. I thought it was just like an
Yeah,
attachment.
I don't know if it's called I think it is just the Vive 2. The
But when I
Vive.
look up the HTC Vive 2, I don't see anything. But
Um,
no, well, yeah,
HTC
because the
Vive 2
tracker
headset
is
might
its
be on
own
its
thing.
way. Game rant. So yeah, so here's the Vive 2. Yeah, so it is. Yeah, the tracker might be, but I think it's going to be included with this,
Well, yeah, it'll probably be included the new one, but apparently you can get
the mouth tracker.
the mouth tracker to work on an index. You just
Oh,
got to
okay.
do a little bit of finagling. But at the end of the day, it looks like it's just a USB port, which the Vive has a secret USB port behind the glass on the front of the face.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
But I'm actually really excited to have HTC come back because apparently they made a couple of headsets. I didn't know this because I looked it up at the time. They made a couple of headsets that were more high end,
yeah,
and that's kind of what it's sounding like they're gonna do again. Um, make more an enterprising, or what the index would be considered is. But
yeah. I mean, I think both because Vive and Valve or HTC and Valve worked together to make the Vive, and at the time it was fantastic. And I just think both companies are like, yes, this is the level of VR we're gonna stick with, and then they went their separate ways. And I'm excited to see what HTC comes out with because the Vive at the time was really awesome, and the
It
Index
was.
has definitely stepped it up and been like, no, 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 we're better. So I'm hoping the Vive is like, nope, now we're better, and then Index
Well,
Two
I
is
think the
just kick
Vive. I think
ass.
the next Vive is going to be standalone too. I'm not sure.
There
Oh,
was a standalone Vive. It was the Vive Pro.
yeah. So that's. I think that exactly, and I think that's why people think that this one might be standalone because they're going to keep going in that direction. Um,
It's the only. I mean, we've said this a billion times. It's the only logical step at this point.
it is the
Like,
only
it's
logical
good.
step.
The screen's good enough. The things are good enough to be like, okay, we just need to figure out the cable, and then we can advance forward with that.
Well, like the other one is just getting rid of the controllers and having hand tracking. And I have no idea if they're eventually I think, especially with a
Well, they
lot of the
have body
tech.
tracking, and the Vive also came out with body trackers.
Yeah, but is that just the sensors on your,
Let me look. I didn't look, but
or
continue on
is
with
it
what you were saying.
no. What I was gonna say is just like a lot of the new technologies that are coming, like the on the new Apple phones, they have the what's that thing that track like can basically
The
uh,
lidar.
yeah, lidar. Thank you. The lidar
Yeah.
and like things like that. Like I think those types of technologies will be getting us closer to not even needing controllers and being able to track your hands, where that and like you just use your actual hands.
Yep.
Um, as well as just being able to incorporate your room with VR, AR, and like making those more seamlessly work together. Um, I'm excited. I think a lot of like I'm. Oh, yeah. Plug. I'm gonna do a plug. We are we are gonna start to do a VR show and we're just gonna be. It's a let's play inside VR. So I'm gonna leave it at that because we're still ironing out the details, but it's gonna be on Wednesdays if we post there.
Yep.
So, um, but it looks good from our last test. It looks good.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I just it's I want the next step. I mean, I know I felt this way the first time I put on the Vive. It's like, oh my god, I can't wait. And I know that we're getting closer. And yeah, it's a step back to make it self contained because it's not going to look as good. But I still think a step back to take a step forward because I think it gets it into more hands. More people will be using it. There's more interest towards it. Like I can just go on Amazon, buy my girlfriend a Vive, and she can start playing games. I don't have to do anything else,
Yeah.
which is just so cool. And I think
Well,
that,
do you want them to go self-contained or wireless? Because it's different. Like with the Index, I want them to go wireless, but I want them to keep the base stations because I feel like it's just gonna be it's a better experience in terms of like higher quality games with with those stations. I just don't want a cable in the back of my head.
yeah, no, I agree. And we've talked about the Wi-Fi 6E and the capability using that to make high bandwidth transfers. But I don't know, dude. I honestly I think to make VR like the actual industry of VR bigger, it has to be self-contained. And I really think that that's why what Facebook is doing, and even though I dislike the company itself, is really important because it's getting it makes the process of getting somebody into VR super easy. And yeah, it's a step back because you're now dealing with cell phone technology over desktop technology. Of course, I think that both options should be there, but eventually, I honestly think that it will be self-contained. So that is the inevitable end all of this, and maybe even just if it was over the network, but I don't know if you could do that, if you could do cloud based headsets so that all the computational processing happens on the cloud.
Oh yeah, it'll yeah that. I mean, it's just a screen at that point. Like
It's just a
that'll
screen at
happen.
that point.
That'll happen. Hands
Yeah.
down.
Well,
I can't believe we didn't mention that the other times we talked about this. That's definitely gonna happen.
it's just a transfer. It's a lot of data though for those screens because those screens are like it's a lot of pixels.
Yeah,
I
but it's
mean,
probably less data than it would be. Well, if it was self-contained, yeah. I see what you're saying.
well, I don't know. I mean, like we're still at the screen door effect, so I have no how the pixel density that's going to be required to get rid of the 100% get rid of the screen door effect.
Yeah.
It's a lot, and it's double for everything. You know, although yeah, you'd have to say double that for, and maybe that's not much. I don't know. Um, because yeah, it's just the color of the pixel on it. I don't see why you
Well,
maybe.
speaking of, we talked about Wi-Fi transfer rates. Did you
Well,
see Google's
so
new Wi-Fi app? Or it's a new app that uses Wi-Fi Aware, which is also known as something Nan. It's like it's pretty much a not Bluetooth, but a way to send really large amounts of data over like a very low range Wi-Fi
it's
between
called
like directly
Wi-Fi.
between two devices. Wi-Fi
What
Aware.
aware?
I think it.
Uh,
Let me. Neighboring Awareness Network is the other thing for it.
no, I have never heard of this.
Which it's. I don't. I need to see. I don't know who makes it, and I think that it is Google that is making this like Wi-Fi aware thing. Because from the sounds of it, um, it sounds like AirDrop, which has already existed.
Yeah.
Which Wi-Fi, I mean, AirDrop it uses Bluetooth to find other devices, and then once you make that connection, it uses a very special peer-to-peer, which is why AirDrop is so fast. But it seems like what they're able to do is like this is end-to-end no Bluetooth. It's just this way of doing things, and the demos that they were showing off was they were able to detect the distance between two phones.
Ooh, that's
Which
awesome.
that's very interesting. And I've wondered for a while. I'm like, oh, can Bluetooth? I don't think Bluetooth can do that.
Well, I mean, it's all just. I would imagine it's if it's standardized amount of time to send a packet or whatever it may be. You know, you could do the
Yeah,
calculation based off of the time it takes to get from one phone to the next, and back. I mean, I'm sure you'd have to go there and back to get. Yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
So that's exciting. I don't know where it'll go. It sounds like at least right now they're trying to use it as an AirDrop alternative and just bring AirDrop type functionality to Google phones. But they've also mentioned crazy ideas like they want to streamline airport security and you can put your driver's license in it. And I'm like, well, we need to like allow people to have digital licenses first. That's a huge step.
there's other countries that do it.
I don't believe me.
You
The amounts
know.
of times I lose my wallet, I wish I didn't need that thing.
Yeah.
Um, Sending a document to a printer without having to log into the network, sure.
I mean,
Printers,
that's actually kind of cool. I mean,
yeah,
printers. Yeah. I mean, it's kind
printers
of cool.
fucking suck. But
Yeah, but if your friend comes over and wants to, print out
yeah, I
gay
mean,
porn on.
that happens all the time. I go over and I'm like, dude,
Sorry,
can I print something? Like, holy shit.
or
Um,
any other. Sorry, I'm actually like, never mind. So let's move on.
um, let's see what else. Oh, let's see, view a restaurant menu and make a reservation while walking by without an internet connection, even when the restaurant is closed. So,
That's
I
kind
mean,
of cool. Yeah,
without an internet. Okay, so I guess like, yeah, without an
because
internet. So it is. It's
it's
just a
what you're saying,
local
peer to peer. It's like
network.
it finds whatever the it's a local
I guess that would be
connection.
cool if restaurants had an airdrop style of just. I don't think it's gonna happen that like I don't know how many times. Well, I guess yeah, walking around. Oh, I want to go to that restaurant. Then you make a reservation. I don't know. It sounds cool. I definitely could see this as like the future of things, and I think that this is going to get us to that like AR future where you're just walking around and there's just info everywhere, and you can just be like, "What is this restaurant's menu?" I think this technology is going to allow for that.
Because it'll automatically be able to push their menu to your headsets or
Yeah.
whatever.
Either
What
Google is going to do something, which this seems like this is the thing Google would like to do, or I know that Apple is very into AR, so I could see them improving AirDrop to try to be the people to do this first. Because it's cool when you use the Maps Apple Maps app, if you choose to go down that route of your life. If you go to their version of Street View, it does this type of like AR looking thing where you're like looking around and things are floating around like, oh,
Yeah.
this is this it's cool, and I'm like, I wish this was in real life. But
I always saw AR as like when it gets very advanced as it being subject to networks. So basically, you can be in the public network or you can be in your own private network.
that'd be
That
good.
way, yeah. So like the public network is where this stuff would exist, and then a private network would be like if you want to play a game in the park or in the street with somebody else, then you create a private network, and that way you're not seeing everything in the public network in your game.
Yeah, well,
or
I
in
mean, I
your.
guess it's how they handle, like, if we take a Maps app for example, if we went the Wi-Fi aware route of that Google's talking about, it wouldn't be my glasses, for example. Like my
But
glasses wouldn't be running the Maps app. It would just be my glasses are receiving data, and like you're saying, like I
that
put
doesn't.
myself on the public network.
But that doesn't work because that's not a public network. Now that is a you're getting push notifications, which is not really what I want because I mean, of course, I can't predict this, but that just seems like a sticky, where advertisers now get
Yeah,
the opportunity to blind you with their push notifications, and I don't. I want it to be like if I want to be in the public network, that's fine, but I don't want to be like my device it has some sort of secondary connection to all these businesses allowing them to push data to it. That's not
yeah,
what I want. And also
yeah.
for
That's why I would.
privacy, and I don't
I'm a
think you could even do that because like you can't. Well, huh? I mean, there is a little bit of a privacy element to that because how do you filter all the information that's being pushed? What if it's
Well, yeah, that
sensitive?
was. I mean, that was just an example of it, the data is outside of your headset and it's getting pushed to you. You can allow it, privacy settings aside. But the other route, which I think probably we're going to see more, which I think Google Glass was doing, which is like you run the Maps app,
Yeah,
and then
location
it's like
based.
now you can see all of the restaurant data, which
See,
is
that's
how
what it should
phones
be.
work. Okay,
It
yeah,
should be it should be location, so it's like I'd rather see it that way. That's why yes, this might be a very good technology for certain things, but I honestly think that the best structure that you could probably take is location based, and both for a public network and a private. Because then, even if you're in a private network and you create something in the world, right, and you create a 3D mesh, all that 3D mesh is a representation of data that now has a location or a GPS coordinates attached to it so that when your friend looks at it, he's looking at that GPS coordinate from a direction, and then he's seeing what direction. That's basically his camera is looking at, which is what your eyes are based become the camera, and then you're just seeing the 3D objects floating there. And then if you enter into the public network, now it's everybody's objects that so now you have huge databases of objects that have been created in these worlds, and you can have, and that way, that's the only way I can see it making sense.
yeah, and
Otherwise it just seems like, yeah, advertisers are just going to be throwing crap at you constantly.
yeah, I'm really curious when we get to the point with AR glasses where it's like with the VR now, there's like a billion different companies making them, and some are good or some are bad. Like how advertisey, shitty based some of them are going to be.
Oh yeah.
And I think it comes down to a lot of the company's philosophy of like Google does love user data, and I wonder what their glasses will look like compared to Microsoft's
Or
or compared
apples.
to Apple's, because Apple's very privacy based. Like I'm wondering if theirs is going to be super limited because they're just like we don't want to give your data out. It reminds me of the reason Siri sucks compared to Google, and like Google Assistant is amazing because it uploads whatever you're saying and it's running all of its computations on the cloud, so it has like almost infinite resources. So it's like super duper smart. But that means, anything you say into it and use is just like accumulating that data.
You know
But
what?
Siri is not using the cloud. It's all on your device because of privacy, which means they don't it's good, but it's not going to ever be as good cuz like if I get a new Google phone, it already knows my voice. It's just like, "Oh, hey Spencer, we know your voice
Yeah.
recordings, we saved them." But every time I get a new Apple device, I have to reteach that device Siri every time. There's no way I can not do that, which
Well,
because they don't save that.
here's the thing I kind of hope for, because I see AR and what we've been talking about is a new internet. It's more of a place where
Yeah.
information is being passed back and forth, and it will become that. And honestly, I feel like it should be treated the same way as a free exchange of information. No, that nobody really owns, and like that that's I. It would just be a way better experience if that's what it becomes. Like if it becomes, where you just create sub networks, and there's main networks, and it's not like, and companies come in to sell their products in those spaces, and they make ways you can connect to those things and ways you can filter those things, but they don't own the actual internet.
Yeah, and I think that I feel like that's going to be the approach of some companies, and others will try to do the other way. And I think Google's going to definitely be the ones to do it the other way because Google, they almost own the internet at this point. They're everywhere. So like they have that ability to be like the internet is just everything with us. So they're able to do that. And I agree with you. I don't want it to be that way. I want it to be like the internet when it was born, of just like it's just this free form thing, and my computer connects to the internet and it's decentralized. I think
Yeah,
that's
it's
what we're
decentralized.
yeah, we want to decentralize, and I think it's going to
And
depend on the headset.
no, not necessarily. I mean, if someone makes a decentralized network, which is something we have a lot of these days with Bitcoin and different, cryptocurrencies. We see, what's it called? Blockchain. Um, I don't know if this is necessarily a moment for blockchain to shine, but it definitely is a way. I mean, there's a lot of buzz about decentralized networks, um, which I think could benefit this, and hopefully, we'll take it the same direction where it's kind of a free space. And it's hard because when the internet was created, it was created out of the government and then also just out of the government sector, and then it started to be it kind of came out of nowhere. So there weren't all these like multi-billion-dollar companies that were invested in data at the time. Just so it was able to grow naturally and free. Where
Yeah,
now it's
and
like everybody wants an interest in the next thing. It's like
yeah,
they'll
and I
try to
think the
own it.
thing that might, I don't, not kill it, but it's going to hinder it. And I really wish that maybe by the time we get to AR, we can finally just say that internet is a utility and it should just be free. And it really should be, but like internet is not free. So like each one of these headsets, you're going to have to do of like, I have to buy a phone plan or like go through an internet service provider. Like it starts that question of how much is this headset going to cost me to use all the time? And if I'm using it all, like my phone, I'm using all the time. And we have gotten to the point where it's like, a lot of people have unlimited data plans because at this day and age it feels like you just need a
Yeah.
data plan like that. And even like Comcast, people run out of the terabyte of space, and it's only getting worse because every like things are getting higher res. And like, yeah, when you I think it was, yeah, when you brought your Xbox over, we were just installing games and like trying to find out the new game, and then Comcast was like, hey dude, you're having too much fun, you need to shut the fuck up and stop using the internet. And I'm like, fuck off, dude.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
We
No.
need to get it free.
Yeah. I mean, there's two sides to this. I mean, obviously, utilities aren't always the best, but at least they're consistent. But I mean, I think that by making it part of the private sector, at least the infrastructure for the network has been in the private sector, especially for cell phones in different ways, and who puts down the lines and all that kind of stuff. I get that. I wouldn't have wanted to give that to the government. I'm glad the private sector was in charge of making the infrastructure. And it kind of sucks to come out and say like, oh, now all the lines and the cables and all the stuff that you put down is now ours. Only way I can see this is happening is more where Elon Musk is going. Although he's putting the satellites in sky,
Yep.
and he's spending all the money to do that. So like I don't really know how you tell the private sector like, hey, sorry for you put all $1 billion into this, but we're just gonna make this public.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we had to stick with the route of having internet service providers, then it would make sense in terms of pricing and availability of allowing that to be a way more regulated. But if the dream goal is Elon Musk satellite link, where it's like you put the satellites up there, and I mean for AR that would be incredible if you just have VR everywhere, because there's just these things putting out. I mean, in cities that have citywide Wi-Fi, you start to see the vision we're talking about of like, I go into downtown Kirkland and I can just connect to the Kirkland Wi-Fi and I'm just there and I have Wi-Fi for free.
Yeah.
Granted, the city of Kirkland's paying for that Wi-Fi and those servers, but like, that's an amazing experience. If I had a headset, it would be like, oh, I'm in the downtown, like you said, I'm in the downtown Kirkland network, and now I can see all these things and all of the
Well, I
information I
hope
need for
so.
here.
But
Yeah.
I mean, it very much could be the Apple network or and maybe everyone has their own network. But I mean, it seems so silly, and it's
I
just what
don't
we're
think
doing.
so. Because I mean, like, look at internet. Like, I feel like it's just gonna match
It doesn't
browsers.
it doesn't have to though. And the reason why browsers exist was because in the beginning they had the opportunity to be free, and like the internet had the opportunity to be free, and it became a free service. Like it had the time to be actualized, to the point where then people could step in and say, well, hey, we should have free information. But now it's like people are projecting how much money AR is going to make in the future, and everyone's before it even comes out is trying to secure that their portion of that pie. So like, I have no idea what's going to happen. I hope that they have the foresight to realize that it's very similar to how the internet operates, and hopefully keep the same spirit uh, when they go forward. But there's no guarantee of that. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it's just a lot. Like I was saying, of the companies that are in this ball game, I think that the two ones that would potentially try to make their own network would be Xbox would be Microsoft and Google, because they're so cloud driven businesses at this point, like incredibly cloud driven. Like their whole thing is their search engine and their internet, and they have so like that's why they were claiming with Stadia that it was going to have such better bandwidth, because they have all these high traffic networks available to Google, because that's what they do. And Microsoft pushes cloud more and more every day, and Apple hasn't really done that much. That's why I think it would be better if we go more towards the browser approach of like Apple has Safari and Microsoft has Edge, and everyone has their own browsers that connect to the internet and do things specially for that. But at the end of the day, it's all just connecting to the internet.
yeah, which is, I mean, but that infrastructure was built for us. I actually looked up. I'm not even sure the history of the servers that run the internet.
Well, I mean, a browser is it's just a wrapper around displaying HTML and all the different languages of the internet. Like that's all it's really doing. Like
So yeah, I
I
guess
can get all of my internet documents from the command line and be like, "What's my Facebook look like?" and it just prints out bullshit. But um,
well, because you have all the hosts, right? You have all the website hosts, so like you pay for hosting. I feel like I should know this, but
well,
like,
yeah,
so
you set up DNS servers and
yeah,
to allow that whole infrastructure to work. But again, that's all the internet structure. But the browser itself is really just a way of it's just to pretty up the internet.
yeah, it filters through, and then all of the structure is held on servers itself, like
Yeah,
how the interconnections of all these pages and the links and all that
yeah.
kind of stuff is held on servers themselves, which wouldn't be the hosting servers. They would be separate servers. Correct? Is that right?
Maybe I
Yeah, I
got
know
lost
that.
a little bit there, but
Well, because like the host is just hosting your. I mean, it's just a server where you. So basically, when you go to a website, you're just however that website's being hosted. Then you go and you call whatever data you need from that server, and the browser gets the data from that server. But then,
yeah,
and Google's has its own server, which is where you're doing all your searches and stuff, and so that's where all like the data is being
yeah,
processed. So it's scouring all the open networks that are saying, hey, like I have no idea. I think like if you're GoDaddy or whatever, saying like, okay, well, GoDaddy, what are all your websites, or all the major providers of websites, and then it's like saying, what are all the websites, and then they're just ranking them.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
It's just that. Yeah, that's Google's the search engine is their own thing.
yeah. So I guess that everything kind of exists. This idea of the internet is just.
I mean, the internet is just a bunch of servers, and then you just search them with the search engine, and then it shows them in a browser,
So this is
which
just
you don't even need.
exclusivities. You're
What do you
right.
mean?
So yeah. So it just comes down to if they own both the hosting and the way to search it, then you have more of a closed system.
Yeah, which is, I mean, that's why Google has been considered a monopoly over the internet, because
Yeah.
they have such a strong hold, and it's gotten to the point where like, yeah, if you're not googling, it feels like you're using the internet wrong. And it's frustrating because like I don't support Google's uses of user data and all their privacy things, but at the end of the day, it's just the best. Like I try to use other search engines like
But there's
DuckDuckGo. It doesn't do anything with user data and stuff like that. And
but
but
Google's
it
not providing hosting though.
well
They're
you
not
you
they're not allowing you to they're not allowing server space to store your website.
yeah, you can buy it through Google
Can you?
Domains and put it on Google Suite. Yeah.
So there's Google domains.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So they do. Okay.
which is Google Domains is just a platform to buy domains, but you can you can put it on a Google server like Squarespace does their own, and then there's AWS. Like yeah, they have server space that you can buy and stuff like that. Um, So I just don't think it makes sense if anybody tried to reinvent the internet just for this AR network. It would just make
Well,
way too much sense to just reuse the internet and the AR just talks with the internet.
but yeah, but I also think that like what kind of exists here with the internet that might not exist when AR comes. So like right now with the internet, it's kind of an open, like there's a lot of competition, right? There's a lot of different companies out there that are allowing for hosting, and there's a lot of choices that you can make, which makes the internet kind of free because Google's takes an advantage of being able to go to each hosting site and get all the websites, and then that just makes them more relevant, right? Because if mom and pop store is going to make their website and you want to know about it, you want it to be on Google. So then just that element of being relevant within a product that has good competition. But I suppose with this, like with AR right now, since there is no competition and it doesn't even exist, right? I mean, it does, but not in the form that it's usable. It there is a way that you could define it, because I think at first what's going to happen is you're just going to get um, all of these different companies that are making AR products, AR goggles, to make it so that their goggles have enough content so it's interesting, and especially when it's location based. So it's going to be Apple that's going to be creating on Apple's network all their location things, and then it's going to be Google that's creating all their things, for their Google glasses if they ever do that again. Um, where because they're just trying to make enough content so that when you walk around you see stuff, and then so it's going to be I think it's going to be divided at first, but then I think over time there'll be so much content coming from different places that there has to be in order to stay relevant, you want to collect the data from all the different companies and all the different sources, which then creates another internet for AR.
Hmm.
Possible.
I mean, I guess the way it's kind of sounding is that like this AR network of sorts that we're talking about is literally just who has the most shit inside of their Maps app. Like it sounds
Who
like
has
the
the most
AR is
shit?
just going to be
Yeah.
constantly running the Maps app because yeah, everything I guess does have to be location based. But I think that some apps won't be. Like I'm sure if I open my reminders app on my glasses, it'll just do something that I don't need a location for. But in terms of just walking around the world and experiencing things in the world, yeah, it's all got to be geo based, which I mean, that's and of all the companies, Azure from Microsoft is I think the best when it comes to higher precision location based things. Um, Google Maps probably right behind them, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good point.
Yeah.
And
I
at
mean,
that point, it is just an app who has the most data
who has the most
accumulated
data?
into their server.
Because at the beginning, it's just going to be selling the hardware. I mean, like these companies are just going to do whatever they can to sell the hardware,
Yeah.
to get enough. Because there's just no, like, it's the same thing we saw with VR. There's just not enough hardware out there. And then what happens is nobody wants to build software for something that has a small marketplace, or market
Yeah, and
possibility, or, they can't make a lot of sales.
I can't believe I didn't think of this, but Apple has already started down this route of you go to places and they have AR. Well, that's not AR experiences, but they have these like a kind of a network which they called. I don't even think any. Oh, I think Panera Bread uses them. It's called an applet, which is like I go to Panera Bread and my phone's like, "Hey, you're in Panera Bread. Would you like to use the mobile app? But you don't need to download the app." And it's great because it's really just like a version of the app with just enough info that I can use temporarily, and then it doesn't install it on my device. And then if I leave, it just goes away.
Oh, that's nice.
So they have this experience on the phone of walking around. You go to there and it's like applet, woo. They at this point they just need to get more people onto that, which Apple's really good at forcing people to do shit. It seems. Um,
Yeah.
and then they need to put it in a pair of glasses or on your watch. And Google's right around the corner with that stuff. I don't know if they have an Apple-based thing, but I'm sure Well, it sounds like they have this with their Wi-Fi aware thing, or that, at
Yeah.
least that's their goal.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, I think that in the beginning, I think there's enough capabilities within your own local network in your own home that, don't need GPS. That are enough of a selling point. I mean, hell, if you can make a computer screen or a TV screen exist in your home location wise, you're good. I mean, you know,
Absolutely. Yeah.
you've already sold it to a lot of people. But I do think that there's a much bigger possibility here. I mean, just it's just going to be really interesting. I mean, my favorite thought experiment here is if you could put filters on life, right? So you take anything, right? Like, so basically, if you put a filter, let's say you put a cartoon filter, and now it remaps everything that you're seeing as the same thing it is, but as a cartoon.
True.
Yeah, so you just see the regular world, but everybody's a cartoon. Everything you see is a cartoon, or everything you see is it looks like a mosaic,
Yeah,
or
I mean
you
that
know,
that will be there eventually with Snapchat filters. They're just dying for the hardware to get there.
yeah,
Like
no, and I
so.
think it's and that's I mean that's just interesting in itself. You don't even need much. I mean that just uses the mapping capabilities so that the what do you call IR uh,
LiDAR? Is
lidar?
that
Sorry,
LiDAR?
lidar.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Apple's thing.
lidar capabilities and other things like that to be able to get a structural uh, mesh of the objects that you're looking at.
Yeah, no, we're getting. I'm very excited what 10 years will look like.
Oh
Like
yeah,
what the
yeah.
world's gonna look like in 10 years. This is a
It's gonna
fucking weird.
be crazy, crazy. There's gonna be a huge change in the way that we're all living, in so many ways. And I honestly don't. It's funny when I try to tell this to people that aren't in the tech field, and they're like, "What?"
It's like it's not even. I don't know if scary is the right word, but it's like a little scary to be like, no, no, no. It's like shit is changing so fast.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially with like we've talked about with the arm transfer to arm is going to revolutionize things, and some of the things that internet and VR and AR. It's just like the world's going to be like almost unrecognizable in 10 years. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that it's going to, and this is my favorite part about it, is it's really going to solve the interconnectivity between us. And I know this because this is kind of exists in VR, but I think with AR, it's going to be even better. Yes, we won't be able to touch each other, which is really so you won't have physical contact. But if you can have your friend sitting in the couch next to you, seeing the same virtual television that you're seeing, but he's across the country, so you're sitting there and playing video games on the same couch, but he's on his couch and you're on your couch.
Yeah, it's
I mean, that just that's so cool. I mean, that's really will be nice for a lot of people.
yeah, it's always been a fallacy when people are like technology pushes us apart and like with texting and everything, and it's just not even. I don't see that at all. Like I feel like the more technology that we've had, we're way more connected to people than ever before. Like I can text anybody on my phone at any given time, granted if they respond. We just like you're in LA and I'm in Seattle, so it's great that we were literally sitting on a virtual couch playing the same NES game. Like what
Yeah,
the fuck? That is insane. Minus the audio
insane.
problems, but it was
Yeah,
insane. And yeah, like with Xbox Live, so many people have had stories of like, oh, I met this person on Xbox Live, and then I met them later on in real life, and it's like I've never met this person in my life, but it feels like I've known them for years because they have. And I
yeah.
have friends on Xbox that I was like, yeah, I haven't talked to them in a long time, but it's just like have never met that person. But if I saw them on Xbox, I could just be like, hey, you want to play games? It's like, it is crazy.
Well, it's just like when we played Halo. I've been playing Halo with a lot of my first college friends,
Yeah.
and they're all in like Middle America. Ohio. Some of them are in Ohio, some of them Indiana, and where's the other one? Anyways, um, but yeah, I mean, we play multiple times a week, and it really feels like it fulfills the friend need. Like I feel like
Oh
after I
yeah.
play, like I've been fulfilled.
No,
I'm happy.
yeah, it's cool because I mean I just got wrapped up with work and all these other things that I just hadn't played Xbox or really any game in a while. But I booted up a couple like solo games, and then I was like one day decided I was gonna play some Apex again, and I started playing with my friends, and I was just like, man, that felt way different than gaming anything. Like gaming with friends just feels so much different, and it does feel, especially in the pandemic world, it does fill that void.
Yeah.
Not 100%, but a good amount.
No, and I honestly think with AR, it's just going to make it so much better because it's going to bring it to all the friends that you don't might not play games. I mean, hell, you don't even need a TV if you can just see them and they're hanging out, and then it really feels like they're there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just so cool. Like, I mean, anything. And just also productivity, like being able to do projects with people being able to see your screen. Like, I just, if you could put someone else's screen like in the middle of the air next to your screen and see what they're doing. So when you're talking and working on a project together, It's just like so much crap. It's gonna like there's just so much crap.
Yeah, and
That's gonna be
especially
amazing.
it's gonna come down to you just got to see it to believe it. Because with VR, like if you explain to someone who's ever played VR or done like what we did with that virtual hangout, you're like, oh yeah, like it feels like they're there. And they're like, I don't know if it feels like they're there. I feel like it's never. But like, if you really aren't just sitting there constantly thinking about it and you just kind of let yourself go and get into the VR, there were times where it felt like, especially with spatial audio and seeing an
Yeah,
avatar there, it was like you were literally in the same room with me.
I
It
know
was
it's
the
great.
coolest thing ever. And yeah,
Very
with AR,
great.
it's going to be even better. And I think when people who are speculative that it's going to feel like you're with those people, if you just put them in that space once, they're going to be like, oh, yes, that's the shit.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
it.
Well, the other thing is that and I talks about this with my girlfriend about like a lot about the definition of what it means to live in this world and what it means to be in a singular location. Like
Jesus Christ, we're
well,
getting philosophical here, aren't we,
no, no,
Cody?
we're no longer bound to a singular location anymore. Like, even with like, a lot of people say, oh, but I have kids now and they have to go to the school. But like, if they're in AR and the teachers projected in AR and all the students, you could literally make the entire school feel the same. Like you could see all the students next to you. You could raise your hand. The teacher would see you raise your hand, but nobody's in the room but you. And
Yeah.
like so, and now you're talking about you could be on fucking in Barbados and your kids could be going to school, or whatever. It doesn't really matter. Like, and so now we're detaching absolutely everything in society from location, which is a whole nother element that I don't think people are realizing that's going to change.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely. Especially with this pandemic, how much Zoom we've done, and like, there's always the talk of having hyperspeed highways and Elon Musk with his Hyperloop, which would allow people to go to, LA in an hour,
yeah.
which would be insane. Which, I mean, yeah, you could take a flight hour and a half, but like it's a whole ass flight. Just being able to take a bus in an hour to get to LA, that would completely change look people where they live and how they commute, because so many people live in places because they have to because of work. Like, I mean, I love living where I do, but when in the games industry, it's either you live in Seattle area, the LA area, or Austin seems to be on the rise. Same with like Montreal. Like there are places that it's like you need to live there if you want to have a network and you want to have a job. There are outliers, of course, but and there's other industries that are even more so that way, but especially with like in LA, it'd be cool if I could live in Seattle and still have an LA commute and then like work for
Oh,
studios in LA. Like
yeah.
I want to work for studios in LA. There's some really great studios, but I don't want to go live there.
Yeah, but I
So,
mean, if you could do it virtually, I mean, you don't necessarily
or
need to be
virtually, yeah.
there. Yeah, I mean that's how I mean, yes, I'm a huge musker. I'm a musketeer. That's what I say.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. But yeah, the Hyperloop is going to be a while. It's although a good thing for all you musketeers out there. Um, he invented the technology for the Hyperloop, but he just allowed it's free to use. So like Virgin is coming out with their own version, and
Yep.
so it's really cool what he did. Like he's like, okay, well here it is. I'm pretty sure it's free. There might be licensing. Maybe I'm misquoting that, but at least he made it available. For anyone to take the technology and build their own Hyperloop
Yeah.
structures, which is so cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Hyperloop idea is going to be so similar to how railroads worked and how airplanes will work. If we have different airlines and they each have their own loops that do things, it'll be a little different because airlines are planes and they can free move, and a loop would be like, this is the Virgin loop and this is the Musk loop. It's going to
Yeah,
be different, which will be more railroad based, but I think that's the way to go.
yeah. No, I do too. I mean, if it's as fast as it says it is, then yeah, it'd definitely be not. Is it 2 hours? They said 2 hours
I thought it was
from
just like an hour to get to like maybe even
LA
like
from
45
Seattle.
or 30 minutes to get from San Francisco to Seattle.
Oh wow,
But let's
that's
see.
awesome.
Yeah, I mean it is. I want to say it's faster because like I felt like it was a significantly. Uh, okay, well it says a 35-minute, but to where? Oh, it's not as fast as I was thinking. Hold on, it's still fast, but
Yeah, I didn't know that. I mean, yeah.
it looks okay. So from LA to San Francisco is 35 minutes,
Wow.
but it
That
doesn't like.
you
San
that
Francisco
okay.
and LA sound like they're close. They're fucking not close. It's a good distance between those two
That's a
places.
4 hour or five or how long is the drive?
That's
So
like 6 to 7, I
LA
thought.
Yeah, and so I
when I
just took
made
this
it
drive.
last. True, you
Um,
did just make this drive.
so LA to San Francisco drive. Uh, we got five. Yeah, that's what I thought. 6 hours. So 6 hours. So if the total
6 hours
trip
right now, like during,
yeah, six
which is
hours
like
and
seven
52
o'clock.
minutes. Yeah, but once you get out of town, it's. I mean, I don't think that's going to affect it too much. But anyways, let's say 6 hours. It's 5 hours and 52 minutes. But
Yeah.
let's say 6 hours just to round it out. So that's 6 hours, and it's an 18-hour. So
Well,
that's
yeah. So
going to be
they
three.
took
That's going to
six
be
hours and
three.
put it to a half
So
hour. So
times
we've
three. So that's going to be an hour and a half to get from Los Angeles to.
so it's as fast as a plane without all of the plane shit.
Yeah, hour and a half. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
that
that's
would be
how long a
amazing.
flight is between those two places. So that
Yeah,
would literally be plane travel, but without all of the bullshit. Which, like,
yeah.
I think we can all agree if we don't have to take a plane places, we won't. If we
Oh
can
no,
take a
yeah. I
hyper,
hate.
if I could take a hyperloop to Florida, I will take that over the plane, and then we could stop using planes so much, which would, environments and other problems that are annoying with planes.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm all aboard, and we can get that cool shit they have in Japan. I think it's in Japan where the the waiting the thing that you wait on for the train is on the top of the train, and then it one
Fuck.
detaches while the other one attaches. So
Japan is insane, dude. I
So
wish
you
I
like
wish we had the
I
shit they
remember
have.
I remember seeing this. It's like you stand. It's the platform. That's what I'm looking at. So the platform is part of the train, right?
That's so
And so
badass.
there's platforms, right? And so like you'll stand on the platform at the terminal or whatever, and then as the train goes by, it slowly attaches that platform onto you while detaching the one that it has. So
Just
yeah, so
I
like
wish America could
it
be
never has to
so
stop
cool.
moving.
I wish we could just be as cool as Japan. They've got all the tech shit figured. Like they've spent all their money on technology, and I wish we did that.
That's so awesome. That would be just fun to be a part of. Yeah.
I mean, my
Hopefully.
favorite thing, and we're running out of time here, but my favorite thing was when they did the Hyperloop test. It was just Elon Musk like, all right, take a Tesla, shove it on, and just go. So he just like threw a Tesla through this fucking loop as fast as fuck, and he's just like, there you go. And I'm like, I mean, sure, that works. Teslas are pretty durable, so.
Isn't it? But I thought it was still a rail-based system, but like it has cushioned air. So like it's like cushioned air ball bearings, basically.
Well,
So
I
there's
know
like
it
little
works
pockets
by
of air.
magnets.
Well, yeah, but it's like, isn't it like magnets and like little pockets of air? I think that it floats on. So that's what gives it. So that's the resistance to the magnet,
I
right?
don't know. I don't know. I don't know that much. I know that there's magnets, a tunnel, and that's about it. I don't know
Oh,
much
okay.
about the Hyperloop tech,
Yeah.
but
Meaning, I read an article a long time ago, but I
yeah.
mostly forgot all of it. So.
Alrighty.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and hopefully we'll get a show to you on Wednesday. This new show that it's going to be a let's play in VR. So yeah, join us for that, and see you next week for the next episode of Glitch Point. All right. Thank you very much.